The Pandavas have now settled in Khandavaprastha. Slowly, they're becoming good at ruling this kingdom. The new wife, Draupadi, is settling in well as well. One day, Narada, the Devarshi, comes to meet the Pandavas. And he tells them the story of Sunda and Upasunda, two brothers who would have given their life for each other while they conquered this world and eventually ended up killing each other because of an apsara called Tilottama. The moral of the story being that the Pandavas find themselves in this situation as well, which is having one common woman that they all love, and that may one day lead to some kind of a strife. So Narada advises them to come to some kind of an understanding in which they are able to spend intimate time with Draupadi without having to worry about what the other brothers are thinking. So they come to the arrangement that 1 year Draupadi would be with one brother. The remaining four brothers would, at that time, look at her like a sister in law and not have any carnal thoughts about her. This agreement goes well and it is to be implemented with a penance if someone breaks this. So, if, say, someone enters the bedchambers of Draupadi when she is intimate with another brother, then they go on a 12-year-long exile to pay the penance for it or to do what is called paschatapa. This arrangement works well until a Brahmana comes to complain to Arjuna that some thieves have stolen his puja samagri from his sacrifice. Arjuna's weapons are in a place where he has to reach by cutting across the bedchambers of Draupadi, but he knows she is with Yudhishthira at the moment. But he convinces himself that it is a bigger sin to abandon a Brahmana who is looking for help than to break this arrangement that they have between the brothers. So Arjuna walks in, picks up the weapon, and while doing so, sees Draupadi in an intimate position with Yudhishthira. After helping the Pandava and punishing the thieves, he comes back and tells Yudhishthira that he is now going to go into an exile to perform the penance for the line that he has crossed. Yudhishthira tries to convince him. He says, young people stumbling upon older people when they are intimate is acceptable. The other way round is where the problem is, and he should consider not going to the exile because of this. But Arjuna is adamant. He says, if we are going to start finding loopholes in arrangements that we have come up with, before we know it, this turns into a slippery slope and we fall into all forms of problems. So Arjuna goes into exile. And in the exile, he performs a lot of donations, a lot of yajnas. He helps out people, gives out a lot of money. And on his journey, one day, when he is taking bath in the Ganga, he gets dragged to the bottom by a princess of the Nagaloka. This princess is Ulupi, the daughter of Kauravya. And she says she's been watching him from a distance for a while and she loves him more dearly than life itself. He says, as per the agreement because of which I am in exile, I need to remain celibate or be a brahmachari. And therefore, I will not be able to fulfill your desires to unite with me. Ulupi says, if you don't say yes to me, I will die and my death will be upon you. Stuck in this weird conundrum, Arjuna says yes, spends the night with Ulupi, and the next day moves on with his exile or Tirthayatra. Ulupi will eventually give birth to a boy named Iravana, but that's a story for another day. Arjuna continues his journey. He travels and helps people and donates and performs more yajnas. His journey eventually takes him to a place called Manalura, also called as Manipura in some texts. This kingdom is ruled by King Chitravahana, and Chitravahana's daughter is Chitrangada. Arjuna takes one look at her face and falls in love with her. His desire is so strong, he immediately goes to Chitravahana the king and confesses his love for her and says, I want to marry your daughter. Chitravahana tells the story of his kingdom, in which there is a boon running from many generations, which means only one child is ever born, and that child goes on to become the king. For many a generation, it was always a boy, and the boy went on to become king up to Chitravahana. But something changed in this generation, and Chitravahana is blessed with a daughter. Except she is the only daughter, and if she does not become the king of the land or the ruler of the land, then the land is lost. So, Chitravahana informs Arjuna that Chitrangada is not Putri, but instead Putrika. Would you still be willing to marry her? Arjuna says yes. They get married, and Arjuna stays in Manalura for 3 years. Arjuna gets married to Chitrangada, and he lives in Manalura for 3 years. In time, Chitrangada delivers a baby boy called Babruvahana, who will now go on to become the king of this kingdom. In between, when he is in Manalura, Arjuna rescues an Apsara named Varga, who had been cursed along with 3 more of her friends to become a crocodile and live on earth for hundreds of years, until a brave prince came and fought off the crocodiles and did not fall prey to them. That's just a side story. Now, when Babruvahana is born, he wishes Chitravahana, Chitrangada, and Babruvahana all the best and goes to Dwaraka. And in Dwaraka, he is going to get married again. With whom? That's a story for another day. What is this Putrika now? I thought this would be a good time to talk about how heirs work and how kingdoms are passed from father to son. Usually, the eldest son goes on to become the king. That is true with Duryodhana, that is true with Yudhishthira, and that is true with all the other people we have talked about so far. A Putri is someone who's a daughter, and a daughter is expected to eventually marry someone and go settle with the husband's family. If she is married to the eldest brother, then she becomes the queen. If not, she remains important but not the queen. A Putrika is someone who's in between, someone who's born a girl but is given the status of the heir, which means even though she marries whoever she desires, she will continue staying in the land and take over the kingdom as a king. The person who marries her has a choice to now live in this kingdom or to find a path elsewhere. A Putrika is like an eldest son in all the legal matters. Chitrangada is that Putrika, and her son Babruvahana will go on to now become the heir of the Manalura kingdom. And when the time comes for them to pick a side to fight on in Kurukshetra, this is going to be one of the very few people who are going to remain non-aligned and not fight on either the Pandava or the Kaurava side. A little more detailed story of Babruvahana is told and will be linked in the description in this video.